Welcome to the Everyday Board Game Podcast with Daniel.
And Daniel.
Friday, Top 8 Debate Day. And this comes after we, unfortunately, had to take a week off, wasn't it?
Well, was it really unfortunately that we took a week off? I mean, you were celebrating your son's birth, so...
Yeah. I mean, you're right. The situation wasn't unfortunate. It was just, we haven't had a week off since March. Or whenever we started doing this. I think it was around April, May,
yeah,
maybe?
Yeah, like or early April, I think is what it was.
Yeah. So, I mean, the fact that we took that week off, well, it wasn't really a week off. We just, like, we didn't film the previous Monday, and then, yeah, so it was a week off.
Wednesday.
We filmed Wednesday, but then the Friday we had to skip it. Yeah. So, now that my son's birthday is over with, and, you know, I can relax a little bit, we already celebrated my wife's birthday a few days ago, and tomorrow's my daughter's birthday, so that'll be fun. And then I can finally relax for 9 days until it's my father-in-law's birthday.
Have fun with that. My dad's birthday is on the 9th, I'm on the 29th, and then that's when my downward turn goes.
Right.
Because August is where it starts. My dad's birthday, a buddy of ours' birthday, my birthday, my wife's birthday in September, another good friend of ours' birthday is in September.
Yep.
My mother-in-law's anniversary is in October, my anniversary is in November, and then Christmas.
Yay.
It's all downhill.
It's all downhill from here. What an optimistic way of looking at it.
Well, in this case, I don't know how further we can go down this year.
Right? I mean, this year, 2020 is already a dumpster fire. Let's see if we can make it the whole garbage chute. Anyway, I'm hoping it'll get better. I mean, speaking of gaming, which always makes everything better, right? We had a pretty good response from this week's poll. You said...
do you want to tell them what the top 8 debate is?
Yes, our top 8 debate this week is going to be top 8 Renegade games. Now, that's not a theme of Renegade. Renegade is a publishing company that really kind of like splashed onto the market with Lanterns, which you'll see in our debate later on. But that was really like the first game that I was aware of from them. They might have had like a couple more earlier, but I don't think that there was many.
Not that I could think of. I think Lanterns was one of the first ones I've ever played.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of others. Fuse, maybe, was one of the other ones
Fuse
that
was one
were
of the first,
new to me.
sure. Yep. Yeah,
but other than that...
And Renegade's a pretty big company. You know, they've had a lot of good hits, a lot of successes, but they've also, you know, imported games, they've reprinted games, which you're going to see a lot of different ones. They've done new versions of games that were already on the market. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of things that's interesting about them. So, yeah, this was one that you and I both played quite a few, and we could have gone into, like, top 12, probably.
Yeah, because I got my top... we got the top 8 here. Yep. I have 3 honorable mentions that did not fall behind
right.
The top 8, so...
Now, one thing that our viewers are going to notice really fast is that Shen Phillips games are very popular.
Yeah, very much so.
On this one.
He's got 3 on this list alone.
3 of the 8.
And normally we tend not to put things of the same line, but I'm going to go ahead and mention that both Paladins and Architects of the West Kingdom are on here.
Yeah.
But that's because they play completely different. They're just within the same universe.
Yeah, exactly. They're different games. Just because they're in the same universe doesn't mean... That just so happens that it's part of like a series that they're doing. And because there's also Paladins of the West Kingdom, Architects, and Raiders of the North Sea, which is like another variation of the same idea. So we're going to be debating on those. Yeah. As always, the way we pick our list is we go on Board Game Geek, pick a publisher or a category or mechanism, however we need to, and then rank it from the highest rating from the Board Game Geek rating. And then we pick the top 8 games that Daniel and I have both played. Of course, so that way we can have a fairly unbiased argument for it. And that way we can have reasonable argument. Like, we can't be arguing a game that we haven't played. So if you don't see your favorite on this list, that's either because it was past the 8 or one or more of us have not played it. With that being said, shall we jump into the user or the viewers' honorable mentions?
Honorable mentions?
Yeah.
Sure thing.
The first one I see here, with 5 votes, was Clank in Space.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And Clank is on the list. We'll go through the top 8 games that are on our list in a little bit. But Clank is on the list. So even if Clank in Space jumped up into the top 8, we would eliminate it because it plays pretty much the same as Clank. It's just a different setting.
Right. Unless it was ranked higher than Clank, then we would choose in Space. Right. But we'd pick whichever one is the higher one of the ones that we've played. But we do,
Yeah.
Clank is on the list, and you'll see that in a minute.
And next on our list of users' honorable mentions is Power Rangers. That's one of the more recent games that Renegade has done,
Yep.
and it's a massive, massive game. There is so much stuff in it. It was a big Kickstarter game. I have not played it myself, though. Have you?
No, I haven't either. I mean, I used to watch Power Rangers when I was a kid. There is a dedicated group that comes to our game nights, too, and really...
Used to.
Oh, well, that's true. Used to before the shutdowns. But they would play it like every other week or so, and they'd have a big group, and they'd play it for most of the night. Yeah, it goes over really well. I just, that was too much for a game that didn't look that special to me personally, but clearly it's getting love.
Oh, yeah. Power Rangers, you put that kind of theme on anything. It's like when we were talking about Ninja Turtles earlier.
Yeah.
Ninja Turtles was my generation, so if you're going to put Ninja Turtles on something, I'm going to pay attention to it.
Yeah. Exactly. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, mighty. Isn't that the theme?
Well, it's the lyrics. It's not the way it goes, but sure.
Something like that. I may or may be off a note or two. Our next honorable mention that was added into our poll that got 3 votes was Flip Ships. And you told me something interesting about this.
Yes. The person who added Flip Ships into our poll was none other than Kane Klinko himself.
Yeah, the designer of it. This is, I'm not going to lie. Flip Ships is still so high on my bar that I want to play it. I've enjoyed almost everything Kane Klinko has designed. I mean, I have probably about 3 or 4 Kane Klinko games behind me. I might be wrong. I know definitely Pandemic Rapid Response is a Kane Klinko. Flatline
let's see, there's one on our list that's Kane Klinko, and one on my honorable mentions that's Kane Klinko.
Yes, mine too. So we'll be talking about that. So Kane, if you're listening, I don't know if you are, or if you watch this later on, thank you for adding that on, because I completely agree.
So the next on our list here was added by Alice, and this is Circadian's First Light.
Oh, I know nothing about it.
Another Shim Phillip games, not something I've played. I have looked into it. I do want to try it.
Sure.
But to me, this is one of those games that you got to try before you buy.
Yeah.
Unless
absolutely.
I catch it on a really, really, really good deal.
And now, just as yours and my list might be in a different order. So if we go out of order, just go with whatever the next one you see. The next one I see, it doesn't show me who added it, but it was Bargain Quest with 2 votes.
Yeah, never seen it. Your your friend Peter added it.
Oh, okay, cool.
Next on the list is added by Max, which was Shipwrights of the North Sea.
Very cool.
I have not played that one. The only North Sea game I have played is Raiders.
Same here. The next one, though, is Blood of an Englishman, which is a micro game brought out by... it's a 2-player, only one... It's asymmetric. One is Jack, and the other one is the Giant of the Beanstalk. And it's actually kind of cool. Like, you're just moving cards around. It's kind of like a little shifty puzzle thing as you're trying to get the right kind of cards there, and it's asymmetric win conditions. So that's pretty cool. I don't know who voted for that or who added it, but yeah, it's a fun game.
Next on the list in mine over here is Reichholt.
Reichholt? Yep.
I know nothing about this game, so
it is.
I've heard of it. I've heard the name. I haven't played it.
Uwe Rosenberg farming in Iceland, I think. I know your geothermally farming stuff. It has one of the coolest scoring mechanisms. It's really, really cool. I think you would dig the mess out of Reichholt. The next one on my list is Terror Below. Tremors the board game, basically, but not licensed.
Yeah. We'll talk about this a little later.
Okay. Sounds good.
And next on my list is Explorers of the North Sea. Again, another North Sea game that I'm just not familiar with.
Yep.
I don't know what to say about it. I do like Raiders of the North Sea. Maybe I should try these other ones, Shipwrights and Explorers.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, you like them more than myself, but, I mean, there's no reason not to try them at this point, if they're that high regarded. The next one on my list is World's Fair 1893.
You missed one, just so you know.
I'm sure I did.
And it actually had a vote, so you really skipped.
Oh, well, yeah, we've gone over all of them. Or is it Shipwrights? Shipwrights of the North Sea?
Lotus.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Lotus is not on our list. You're right. I did skip it. My fault. So, Lotus. Yep. I used to own it. It's okay.
Never played it, so I don't know too much about it. And then
Very
we're going
pretty.
about World's Fair 1893. Haven't played that one, so know nothing about it either.
Yep. And Sentient as well is our last one.
Flatline's also on here, but we'll talk about it a little later. Another King Klinko.
That's true. All right, so with that being said, let's go to the comments section of this poll and see what our users said.
Evan said, I put Power Rangers as it's a pretty epic co-op. I would vote on North Sea or West Kingdom games, but they're not actually by Renegade, just distributed locally by them.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
That's fair. I don't blame him. Peter says, tough decision for me. Haven't played most. I have Clank, and I've played it several times. My go-to deck builder. I just enjoy the overall experience of Bargain Quest more.
Again, the game I'm not familiar with, so I couldn't compare the two myself.
Yeah.
Vicky says she really likes Paladins. Each game plays differently, and I like the lower player interaction. You do have to be aware of what other players are doing, though.
Yep.
It is true. Yeah, no, it's very fair.
Yeah, exactly. It's not multiplayer solitaire. There is stuff that can sit. Well, I mean, with any worker placement, right?
There is player interaction, but it's you're concentrating on what's going on in your board, but you got to pay attention to what people are taking as you go around.
Yeah, exactly. Michael says, I've only played Clank on that list, so I have no basis to compare.
Jonathan says, wow, so many games that are on the list to buy, but not played a single Renegade game.
Oh, wow. Poor Jonathan. Well, hopefully this list will help you decide which ones you want to play first. Starfix says, I would have said Raiders of the North Sea, but I didn't know that Renegade published Trajan. They must have done the reprint, which is true. They did the reprint.
They did. Yeah.
Yep.
Jack says Raiders just nixed Trajan for me.
Oh, that's a shame.
That's reversed for me.
Yeah, exactly. Justin says Clank in space is so perfect for me. The extra complexity really makes it one of my favorites. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Not gonna lie. I have not played Clank in space, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I have played regular Clank.
I've heard it fixes a lot of things with it, like a lot of the grab and run idea, which it makes sense because that's playing against the idea of the game. But let's see. I have 3 honorable mentions as well from games that were published by Renegade, and 2 of them were brought up. One of them was not.
2 of mine were brought up as well. One of them was not.
Very cool. So do you want to start? I mean, I think you're more of a Renegade fan than myself.
Yes, so I'll go ahead and start. Mentioned it earlier. It's a King Klinko game on my list here. Fuse is on the list. Its predecessor is not, and that is Flatline. I do really dig Flatline. It's such a good game.
Yeah.
That and it's stressful in a good way. It plays a lot longer than, say, Fuse does, but it still gives you that feel where you're trying to fix the ship, or not the ship itself, but the people in the ship, because, with all the bombs going off in Fuse, now you got to heal the people who just got hurt from all that. So, yeah, I really dig Flatline. It's such a good game.
Yeah, I think Flatline is definitely a Fuse replacement for myself. I like it a lot better, like the quick 1-minute absurd rounds with a moment to collect your thoughts afterwards as everything's resolving. I think it's such a better feeling than just 10 minutes of just, So that was my first honorable mention, so I'll go ahead and just add that on.
Oh, all right.
Was
Sounds
Flatline.
good.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. Flatline's amazing.
So, my second honorable mention that was actually talked about again as well was Terra Below. And as you said, it was Tremors, the board game. I really do have such a good time with this. If you're like a hardcore gamer who has to have like strategy and be a gamer, then this is not going to be a game for you. This is all
Sure.
about having fun, doing a little take that to your friends, pick up and deliver, eggs to certain things. There was one part where I accidentally destroyed, or a mutual friend of ours, a friend of his, actually destroyed himself using a certain thing because it targeted, and it was bouncing around the mat, and it hit him instead of anything else. So
Sure.
there's shenanigans in there, but I mean, if you're going along the lines that it's Tremors, the board game,
Yeah.
then yeah, you need to have that B movie, that shenanigan base in there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have not seen the movie, nor have I played the Terror Below. So, I don't have a comparison, but it sounds really fun.
Yeah, it's a good game. I enjoy it.
Cool. My second honorable mention, which was also mentioned in the comments, was Reykholt. Reykholt, I couldn't agree more. I think it's an awesome Uwe Rosenberg game. It is probably my third favorite Uwe Rosenberg game, but second as far as the big farming games go. It's the fact that you're serving tables with the vegetables. It does something really cool that I love. I want to bring up real quick. So the idea is that you have 5 different vegetable types, and to score on the scoring track, which is whoever's the farthest along on the tables, wins. It goes 1 of each vegetable, and then 2. So you'd be like 2 carrots, 2 lettuce, 2 whatever, And so you have to serve them. So to get higher on the scoring track, you have to be able to provide that many. So everybody knows exactly how much they have to spend. But once per each round, you're allowed to skip one of them and take that many. So if I don't have 3 carrots, I think carrots is one of them. Let's say lettuce. If I don't have 3 lettuce and I go up to that table, I can take 3 lettuce and then still serve the next tables. And so that's a really interesting idea. It doesn't make a lick of sense thematically or how it works in the game, but it works really well, and it's super fun.
Well, it's Uwe Rosenberg. Does this stuff ever make sense?
No, not in the slightest. But I can understand why it's intimidating for some people, because it's literally like 30 worker placement action spaces already on the board, which is intense. But I couldn't agree more. Reykholt is fun.
All right, so my last one, and the honorable mentions, its predecessor is on the list as well. It goes along the lines of Flatline, where it is a sequel, sort of, and that is Fox and the Forest Duet.
Yep.
I really do enjoy this one. To me, it's one of the first trick-taking games that's a co-op that I've ever played. Usually when you're playing trick-taking, if you're playing more than 2 people, it's a team.
Yeah.
Or if you are playing 2 people or more, it's usually you're trying to either make someone take all the tricks or get all the tricks yourself, kind of like in Fox and the Forest.
Yeah.
There's a certain amount that you want to do, or you don't want any, and make the other person bust, in a sense. So, but Duet, you're working together. You're doing this little tug-of-war across the board, making sure it doesn't go off the board while you're trying to get all the little tokens off the board as well. So it's an interesting concept, and I really do enjoy it.
Cool. And my last one, I agree with you. Fox and the Forest Duet was fun, because you and me played it together for the first time, and it worked really well. It was intense, but it was fun. My last honorable mention was not listed in either the comments or the add-on votes, and that's Honshu or Hokkaido. Either one. Both of them are printed by Renegade. I owned Honshu for a lot longer. I just recently got Hokkaido, looking to get it to the table. It's a really smart little tile laying game. It's just a simple card game. You bid for them, you get resources, try and build the best map. Super fun. What more can I say than, if you like that style, it's a perfect example of it. If you don't like that style, then it's not going to win you over, or maybe it might. I don't know. So, with that being said,
I've never played it, so
yeah, I'm going to get you to try it sometime. I mean, now a mutual friend of ours has Honshu, due to that deal that we divvied up. So yeah, it's super fun. And I just got Hokkaido, and I've been looking to get that to the table too.
So they ever get back to you about your Spanish junk orbit?
Yes. Yeah, we'll get it replaced.
All right.
Yeah. So for the viewers at home, just so you know, we bought the 10-game summer deal, and they accidentally sent me a Spanish version of Junk Orbit. Now, we live in the Southwest, and there's good chance that one of us spoke Spanish, but that wasn't, it's unfortunately not the case. And nor was that intended, so they're going to send us a replacement. So, good on Renegade. Appreciate them for doing that. Don't know when it'll happen, but it'll happen.
All right, so before we go to our quick break here, just to let everybody know, these are how the brackets are set up for the quarterfinals. You have the number 1 Clank facing the number 8 Lanterns.
Then you have the number 2 Architects of the West Kingdom versus the number 7 Fuse.
And that's followed up with the number 3 seed Raiders of the North Sea going up against 6 seed Fox in the Forest.
Very different games. And then number 4 seed Trajan versus number 5 seed Paladins of the West Kingdom.
All right, we'll see you in a minute.
Okay. Yeah, okay. It did start recording. Yay, that was confusing. Welcome back. We are ready for our quarterfinals. So, as we just went over, it'll be Clank versus Lanterns, Architects versus Fuse, Raiders of the North Sea versus Fox in the Forest, and Trajan versus Paladins. Daniel, how do we break down how we decide what moves on?
So, we're not going to go through all of it, but there are 5 categories how we break through everything that have 3 subcategories in each one of them. The first one is ease of play. Next one is replay value. Third one, meaningful choice. Fourth one, game immersion. And fifth is art and production.
Yep. So, with that being said, let's go straight into Clank versus Lanterns. Which one would you like, Daniel?
I guess I'll take Clank.
Okay.
Unless you want it.
Yeah, I'm okay. Lanterns is the one that I don't want to say I begrudgingly owned it, but I know when Lanterns was getting really popular, I thought it was okay. You know, I get why people like it. I get why there's positive reviews for a lot of them, and I get definitely why there is a lot of positive basis for Lanterns. But I was short to the game, I suppose, in getting Lanterns because I just didn't get it until about 4 months ago. And I've enjoyed it. But Clank I did used to own, and I no longer own it. Real quick, let's pause for our comments. Glenn Andy says, what about Altiplano, Flatline? I must have missed them. Flatline was mentioned by our honorable mentions, but Altiplano, yeah, nobody said anything about.
Yep.
Doesn't get the same loves as Orleans. So, alright, so Daniel, I'll go ahead and start the argument. Lanterns. I think we both know what's going to move on, but Lanterns does have a lot of smart moving pieces to it. The fact that the tile that you lay down, if you're able to match the sides, great, because then you get the bonuses. But what is aimed at you is what you're going to get. Here's the catch for that, though, is that even though I know, let's say I want to get purple, right? I may want to aim the purple towards me, or I can try and get a bonus, but the ones that are facing every other player, they also receive that coordinating one. And so I can look over at yours and see, oh, like you want white? Well, if I do this, you're going to get a white tile. I better not. You know, and there's a lot of room for some really good thought into it. But effectively, for some reason, a game that gives you that well of a thought doesn't seem like it has... It doesn't reward you for the extra strategy you put in. I don't know how to say it, but I've never felt like this game was even on the level of, like, Ticket to Ride. It's just as simple as Ticket to Ride. But Ticket to Ride, you get a really nice, fantastic, like, sense of accomplishment by the end of it. Where Lanterns, it's just kind of like, okay, I did what I could. You know what I mean? And what is your thoughts on Lanterns?
I do enjoy it. It's probably one of the first games I got into when I got into modern gaming, because that's when its explosion happened. I think we got into modern gaming in 2014. Lanterns came out around that era, so me and the wife played the mess out of it.
Okay.
Not so much now. I'd rather play Clank just because I like deck builders more than I like Lanterns. I liked what it does. Don't get me wrong; it's a beautiful game, but it just after a while, after so many plays, you just kind of figure out patterns and how to work. Yeah, there's variability because of the way the tiles are shuffled, but
Yeah.
it's a good game. Don't get me wrong. I don't disagree with it. And
Right.
Glenn Andy was saying the app is actually pretty good. I have not played the app, but I've heard good
Okay.
things about it. But I'm actually more interested in the roll and write version of Lanterns than I am right now of the Lanterns, the board game.
Yeah, which neither of us have played yet. But, I mean, I definitely want to try it. It looks really cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I see your argument, and I don't disagree with you. And I'm not going to delve into it right now. I do think Clank should move on. However, Clank, which we will be getting into, does have that one fundamental problem that you and I have discussed before on our top 8 debates.
Yeah.
And that's the grab and run. And now, granted, that was
and
fixed in space, but that's not what we're debating. So, with that being said, though, I do think Clank is just a better game than Lanterns.
And I don't disagree with you. When I go through the brackets and how we do it, there's more meaningful choices in Clank Legacy, or Clank in general, not Legacy.
Mm-hmm.
There's more game immersion in a sense. You do feel like you're dungeon diving and trying to get stuff like that. The art production, I think, the art is really nice in Lantern, but the production value in Clank itself, to me, is just a little bit better. So I would have to agree that Clank moves on.
Okay.
And the only one that makes it hard for me is ease of play, because they're both fairly simple. You know how to play a deck builder. I think just the complexity of Clank is slightly more than Lanterns.
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because Lanterns doesn't have exceptions other than those little fate tokens that you can get. Or Clank, you're managing a bunch of different tracks. You're running down there. You're trying to get points. You're trying to get speed and strength and to attack things. Yeah, it doesn't have its full advantage. But I believe Glenn Andy agrees with us. Clank moves on. So, next round.
Well, I know how this is going to go. I'm taking Architects of the West Kingdom just because you flat out hate this game.
Yep, I will take Fuse because Fuse should move on. Fuse is a good game. That's the trick. Architects of the West Kingdom.
It's a good game for you.
Nope,
You're the only one you're the only person I've met that has an issue with Architects of the West Kingdom. Only person. Everybody else who's played this game has enjoyed it.
How many people have you played this game with?
Let's see. I played it with. I played it with. I don't want to say too many names, so I'm just trying to count
a number. Yeah.
About 10 to 11 people.
So I'll admit you've played it with more people, but I mean that one main mechanism. I mean, sure, I get that it doesn't bother you. I really dislike how it can king make, and then I really dislike how I get the prison system. I understand it. I get why they do it and how it benefits the other player, and situationally why you would and wouldn't do it. It just that because of that mechanism, I didn't have a chance to win at all. There was no situation where I could have won because of that mechanism. And now that's not a fault on my playing, maybe to a degree, but that's definitely...
It is a fault on your playing, though.
No, not necessarily.
If me and the other person in the game, Dom, had a chance of winning because we were playing with that mechanism and know how to use it properly, then that's just you not playing the game properly.
Are you saying that if, let's say, hypothetically, if we go back to like the Monopoly days, if we were playing 3 players, and if you and I said, all right, let's make an allegiance, and let's destroy Dom, let's send all of his dudes to prison, let's put him in his tracks, do you think he would have a chance of winning, realistically? Because I don't.
You brought up Monopoly, and no one has ever played Monopoly by the actual rules it's supposed to be played by, so...
What I'm saying, though, is that king-making is definitely a thing in this.
Well, king-making could be a thing in this, yes. I'm not going to disagree that part, but you can't really king-make and fuse. However, you do have an issue of someone taking over and being the quarterback or being an alpha gamer and telling everybody how to do their moves instead of allowing them to do their moves. So if you're going to call a flaw of king-making, I'm going to call out the same flaw of alpha gaming.
You know why it kind of works out, though, in fuse, in my opinion? The reason why I don't think alpha alpha gaming like most co-op games. I agree that's a terrible problem, but because of Fuse, because every person takes their own turn and they're the ones who have to hand out the dice. If they are listening to this person who is alpha playing, and basically telling everybody what they need to do, they're spending more time listening to them and they're losing valuable time of actually making the choice. Because then they're trying to hear everybody's argument instead of just going, okay, well, no, I'm just going to give you this. Deal with it because that's what we need to do. Fuse is a pretty elegant game for what it is.
No, I don't give you that.
I don't see any actual problems with it, other than I don't like the stacking of the dice. That's just a minor thing. It's not a big deal, but I don't blame with it. But Architects really, you can get hosed so bad by playing it, and because the other people are just taking that opportunity on you. And then I think it's just the way it works out, because of the timing of that, is just when I get my prisoners back, when you get your money, and then I send them out again, just because of the way in our 3-player game, it just seemed like there was no other choice than you and our other player than to focus on me.
That's the thing, is you only, and you're not even taking your bias out of this, you're only harping on that one fact because you don't like the take that mechanism in this game.
Right. Which is why I'm okay with it moving on. I just, that part ruined the game for me. The rest of the game seems fine. It seems like an okay game. It was all right, but I just don't. To
me, I just think Architects of the West Kingdom is the better game. When you go through our list here, the replay value in that game is phenomenal because there's so much going on, plus the expansions. Sure. Okay. The variability, the length of time and scaling well. Fuse that's the only thing I see in replay value that Fuse is going to get. Just because 10 minutes and you're done. It's pretty much a filler game.
And ease of
minimum
play.
Number of plays for full experience, you need to do a lot of it. Expandability, there's one expansion that just recently came out. The Viscounts of the Artisans of the West Kingdom, I think is what it's called. Viscounts of the West Kingdom is the third game in the West Kingdom line.
Right.
But there's the expandability. Meaningful choices. There's a lot more meaningful choices in what Architects of the Western Kingdom.
Okay. No, yeah, you're right. I'm going to take my bias out of it. Architects should go on, but that is a really fatal flaw in the game. And
you.
No, and you've admitted it too. You've noticed it. You notice that.
But
and then,
the problem, there is a bit of issue for that, and I don't disagree with you.
Okay.
But you're the only person I've played this game with that has this issue.
Yeah.
There's a reason why it's so high on this list. You're the only one that has issue with it, and you're not taking your bias out.
No, you're right. No, because I'm saying I'm taking my bias out right now. You and I both agree though that that is a fundamental potential flaw.
But no, you said fundamental. I don't agree with the fact that it's a fundamental flaw.
I do.
I agree with there is a bit of a flaw to it.
Okay. Then,
but it's not a fundamental flaw. Fundamental means game breaking, and it's not a game breaking flaw.
Okay. All right.
It's only game breaking in your mind.
Yeah, it's a pretty solid fortress in here. No, you're right. All right, I will take my bias out. As far as a Euro-y game, there is more choices. It's a better game. Let's see how it does in future rounds. So
and this hurts me too because how much I love Fuse.
Yes, yeah. So Architects of the West Kingdom.
I had to argue without my bias and just fundamentally go down our list here and say Architects is more of a game and the better game than Fuse.
Okay, all right. I don't disagree with that. I'm curious to see how it's going to end up. I really am. Yeah. So anyway, let's move on to our next round. And Glenn, Andy, thank you for sending that link. Hopefully they respond. That'll be pretty fun. He referenced Scott. Scott Gaeta is the owner of Renegade Games.
Okay.
So that's pretty cool of you. Thank you so much for doing that. Let's go on to our next one, which is Raiders of the North Sea, which is a good Shen Phillips game. Actually, so really, Architects is the only one I've played that I have an issue against. That's really the only one. And it's not because I have just that one thing just irked me the wrong way. But versus Fox in the Forest. How are we going to argue these two games? They are
phenomenally different, but
it doesn't get much more different than this. A 2-player trick-taking game versus a pretty heavy worker placement resource management game.
So, well, let's do what we always do when we don't know how to figure out how we're going to argue these two. Let's just go down into the tiebreakers.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay, so there's
Ease of play.
Ease of play, Fox in the Forest, right?
Hands down, yeah. Just the simplicity or familiarity of the mechanism. Even growing up, if you didn't play modern board games, you knew trick-taking games. My parents played trick-taking games growing up, so I was familiar with it.
Exactly. I know I grew up playing Pepper, which almost nobody knows how to play now. But I can't wait to show you guys one of these days. Just you wait. As soon as we get a 4-person group and we can play trick-taking games, we're playing Pepper.
Alright, so replay value. That has to go to Raiders of the North Sea. The Fox of the Forest only has length of time. Yeah. But the minimum number of plays for a full experience, and as well as expandability, and I think there's 2 or 3 expansions for Raiders of the North Sea.
Yeah. Whereas Fox in the Forest just has the sequel, but we never count those as expansions. Okay. Yeah. I don't disagree with that.
Meaningful choice. Now, this is where it becomes a little difficult here because you have to make smart choices in Fox in the Forest, and that where it wins for me is impacting other players.
Yes.
Because you could be doing stuff on North Sea that I can completely ignore and go do my own thing. Whereas Fox in the Forest, I have to pay attention to the tricks. I got to pay attention to what's playing. I got to pay attention to how many tricks I take.
Right.
Because I want to fall into that sweet window. I don't want to take too little, but I don't want to take too much.
Right.
And there is a valid game or a valid, I guess, mechanism in Fox in the Forest.
Oh yeah.
Where you can force feed tricks to the other player.
Right.
Forcing them to go over the threshold and get no points.
I agree. Yeah.
Trust me, I know. My wife did it to me.
Impacting others and impacting long term. I mean, even if you're going to throw a trick, you still want to have a way where you can control future tricks. That's not that common in trick-taking games. I mean, sure, there's a level to it, but the fact of the scoring only in the middle ground, you're absolutely right. I think meaningful choice, despite
goes to
Raiders,
Fox in the Forest.
Yeah, it really does. Just because,
and it goes with the arbitrary choices you just touched upon. You can't make an arbitrary choice. You have to be smart of how you're playing the tricks. If you're going to lose a trick, you got to make sure you could still work with other tricks, because whoever wins the trick gets to play the next. What is it? Trump card? I can't remember exactly what it's called.
Yeah.
It's the lead the next trick. Lead. Is what I'm trying to remember.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
exactly.
It's a difficult decision.
That's not to say that there's that there's arbitrary choices in Raiders, because I know I've played against 2 people who have played it before, and we played it in a bar, and they were slightly inebriated, and I still lost handily because I made like 1 or 2 wrong choices, and then I just couldn't catch up at that point. Glenn Andy brought up that there are better trick-taking games. There are, like The Crew, in our opinion, but that doesn't negate like the quality of trick-taking versus worker placement or resource management. So meaningful choice, though, I agree with you. I think Fox in the Forest would get it. Art and production, my vote would be Raiders for that.
So as would it be mine.
Yeah.
And to be truthfully honest, don't get me wrong, the cards are beautiful, but you have the little cardboard pieces for the different stuff that you got to do, the points and stuff like that. Whereas you got
it's
the
good
meeples.
Quality card stock too.
Yeah.
But I think
you got the meeples, you have a beautiful board. When you go down to the design, the board functioning, and the game, it's beautiful. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, exactly. And then so the part that I think would not have, or that I would say would not go for design for Fox in the Forest, the reason why I don't think it gets design is because each of the abilities for the animals on there is no symbology that would reference to what it is, so there's no easy way to remember. Like, for example, the index that's on the top left that tells you what card it is and what suit, it doesn't remind you, and there's no easy way to remember what ability that is, so much to the point where they had to have a reference card, I think. So
what I do like about it, though, is all the odd numbers are the ones that have the power, so
it's easy to remember if your card has a power, but then you have to reread it until you've memorized it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't think that's a good.
However,
as far as graphic design,
game immersion, I have to give it to
Raiders.
not Architects.
Raiders.
Raiders of the North Sea. Yeah, the theme matching the mechanism. You
There's,
are putting your people out there,
yeah.
gaining more people, gaining crew and stuff like that.
Yep, makes sense.
The interaction with the other players is negligible.
No, the worker
It's there,
placement
but it's not really there.
yeah. There's, as far as like actually how you're playing the game and the theme interacting with it and how you're interacting with the other players, like, oh, I'll put my guy there since I see you're going for it. You know, you could totally do that, and it creates those moments that are fun.
Or my personal favorite, and this goes with memorable moments too, when you're playing that game and it's a race, you're like, he's going for the same stuff. I need to get these things in place where I can go for that one way up there. This way I can get it and get the points off of it, because I know that's what he's going for too. We're both racing to it, so I love that one.
Very cool. Yeah, no, I agree. Immersion, I think, tips it in the scale of Raiders of the North Sea. So,
yeah, right. So
with that
Raiders
being
of the
said,
North Sea will actually be going up against Architects of the Western Kingdom in the next round.
Okay, I know what my vote is for. Anyway, I'm not going to say it right now. Now, so this one actually hurts me.
Yes, this is actually my favorite bracket in this entire thing.
Yes, so far.
And it hurts. Actually, no, this is my favorite bracket. I don't care how any of these turn up. These are my top two games on this list.
Yeah, I mean, you and I both have a soft spot for Stefan Feld games. There's no lie to that. We both really like that. But I'm not gonna lie, Paladins of the West Kingdom is such a heavy Euro game that
crunchy.
It did a lot of things to me that I really enjoyed.
Like make your brain hurt.
But here's why, my personal opinion, I would vote for Trajan. And this is just my initial thought of why I think Trajan is better than Paladins. Just barely, though, is that Stefan Feld has a knack for making very unique mechanisms and having them work really well in conjunction to others. So in Trajan, for example, you are doing set collection with the goods tiles and selling them in ships in different formations. You are building tiles that will give you extra actions. You're exploring like all of Italy and that whole area, and you're expanding your outreach of your armies. Now, in Paladins, it does do a lot of worker placement stuff, and there's a lot of really neat things that you can do, but a lot of it is just you're increasing the scales to get to where their points are. Where Trajan, I feel, has such a variety of different mechanisms that all work fairly decently. And that on top of the Moncala mechanism, like, it I think it's way more satisfying in my opinion. That's not to say anything bad about Paladins, because I think that's an awesome game. But I just think Trajan makes more sense because of how unique those mechanisms are.
I don't disagree with you. I do really enjoy Trajan. You know, I'm a Feldian. I have quite a few games on my shelf over here of his.
Yep.
I'm already decided that I'm going to back the next most recent Kickstarter of his with Queen Game, where it's the City Collection. I've already decided that's going to happen.
Yep,
because two of the games that I want are being reprinted into this collection. So, yeah, that's one of the reasons. But for me, I can't disagree with what you're saying about Trajan, but I have to at least fight a little bit for Paladins, because what it does, when you're saying like the rondel and the doing all this, yeah, that's great, but in Paladins, you're doing pretty much the same thing. You're either fighting or defending. You're either building up the towers and getting the resources from that. There's a nice little drafting mechanism how you're getting your meeples to play out into the board, as well as your decision to choose which paladin to use to help you get more people, determining how you want to play on the board. Do I get more resources? This way I can make it cheaper for me on this side of the board. Or do I spend those resources right now, get this ability, this way I can build myself up on the score track? Yeah. Because if I increase this one and it raises my defense, so I have a better chance of going out being a defender. Or I raise this one, which allows me to make it cheaper for me to bring people into my city to help me defend. Or is it easier for me to do this where I can just go out and straight up attack?
Yeah.
And it's going to allow my attack list. And so when it comes down to when you're comparing point salad to point salad, both of them are very fundamentally good.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to make this argument against both of these games. I love both these games. Paladins is my favorite of all the Shim Phillip games on this list.
Mine as well.
And Trajan is like my second favorite Feldian. It's like, and I've mentioned this before, I really love Castles of Burgundy, but that's more of a nostalgia thing too. Castles of Burgundy was the first game I ever played of Stefan Feld, where I'm just like, wow, what is going on? Trajan is 1B. So yeah, I got like a 1A, 1B. Trajan's right up there. I don't own it yet, and that's just because I haven't pulled the trigger on buying it, because you have it. I can play your copy when we get together. It's not an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, the reason why I think Paladins moves on just slightly, and it comes down to art and production. Paladins is, even the Renegade's reprint of Trajan, it's not as gorgeous as the way Paladins works. I mean, if you go down to it, Paladins, length of time and scaling well. If you play the full quartet, I can actually get Paladins done a lot quicker than I can get Trajan done. Just because there's so much going on in Trajan. Once you figure out your strategy, that's what you're going to try to stick to as you're going through Paladins. Minimum number of plays for full experience, that's a little iffy. I think it's more washed.
Like I was saying, the reason why...
There's variable things all the way around. The cards that come out are variable. In Paladins, in Trajan, it's different. So things like the tokens that are coming out on the board.
I don't want to make it sound like I'm downplaying it, because I'm not trying to, but the reason why Paladins just has a lot of tracks that you are just trying to gain momentum in each of the tracks. It doesn't feel like it's anything new that any other Euro game has done, which is why I think Trajan excels in that. Because
the thing is, with Trajan, it's just another Feldian game. At its core, it's straight up point salad. You can concentrate on one thing and still have a chance of winning. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to concentrate on the attacking of the armies and winning and steamrolling there.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Because if you build up properly,
it's unique and it's refreshing because of the fact that like every different way that you can score points that you can specialize in feels like a very different thing. Where a lot of Paladins feels like, oh well, which track do I want to just push forward? Like it, and I know that sounds like I'm trying to downplay it, and I'm not trying.
You're downplaying it hardcore.
I am, but like that's just how it feels. It doesn't.
All right.
Each track doesn't feel different to me.
We're not going to pass on this. We're going to go straight up into the breakdown.
Okay.
Ease of play.
Wash. I mean, maybe Trajan.
Both of them are not easy to play.
Neither of them. Both of them are AP prone. Both of them are equally likely to get to the table. Yeah, no, that's got to be a wash.
Yeah. And especially when it comes to likelihood to get to the table, it depends on your group. If you're playing with people who love Feldian games or people who love the West Kingdoms or North Sea games, it's just which one would they prefer?
Right. Like, which one has less icons on it? Neither. You know?
So replay value.
I mean, same thing. I would say that would have to be a wash. They're both very heavy.
And neither one have a expansion.
No, neither one do.
Or confirmed one for that matter.
I think they're like almost the same number of players or same number of plays for each experience. I would almost, doesn't Paladins go up to 6 players, 5 or 6?
5 or 6, yeah, somewhere around
Okay, because Trajan tops at 4, but the thing is, minimum number of plays because of all the mechanisms being so different. We have to call it a wash.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Meaningful choices impacting other players. I think on that sense, Paladin has a little bit more impactfulness than Trajan because of some of the stuff that you're taking away from them. Like if you're the first player and you get to draft a card that you know someone else wants, but you really need to because of the type of meeples that are on there, that does, or even just in the rows, the people you're trying to hire into your crew or just sell, push them away for you can get the resources straight up off of them.
Sure.
That can affect other people's play. Okay,
I will give you that because the only real impacting other players in Trajan is the building tiles because you have if you take a tile there then I can't, and then also the little Senate track. Yeah. But I mean that's a very small comparison. So yeah, it would have to just lean slightly towards Paladins.
Impacting long-term strategy, and this is I'm going to have to say this goes to Paladin and hear me out on this. Because the way Feld games work, because of their point silent aspect of it, you can pivot, not as powerful in some of his other games, but you're still allowed to pivot because someone keeps messing up your long-term strategy, and you still have a chance to win when you're going away from what your long-term strategy was in the beginning of the game.
Okay.
Paladins, it's a little trickier when it comes to that, because everybody who's played it even tells you, concentrate on 1 or 2 things on the right side of your board. because if you try to do everything, it's going to put you out of the game where it's going to hurt you.
Sure. Okay. So meaningful choice goes to
Paladins.
Paladins.
Yes.
Now, I'll be honest. I think immersion would go to Trajan because it does technically have a theme, and a lot of the things that you're doing, building buildings, settling Rome, moving along the Senate, I mean, they're very abstracted, but they all do make sense to the theme and the setting of the game. Where Paladins,
Yeah, I'll
it's
give
just
you
a
that
little bit
because
less.
the theme does match a little better. There is more interacting, more table talk with
Yeah.
Trajan, where Paladins, you're really concentrating on your board and trying to see what everybody else is doing. Other than
Right.
that, it's along more of the lines of like Feldians,
Sure.
where it's tabletop solitaire or multiplayer solitaire games.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. So, yeah, immersion would go to Trajan.
Now here comes a fun one: art production.
Art and production. As I'm gonna hate saying this, but that's got to go to Architect or Paladins because I mean, Glenn Andy says it. The Maikos art, yeah, it's good art.
Yeah,
That's not to
it's good.
downplay
It's great
Trajan, but it's cluttered. The symbols all do make sense, and the boards make sense, but it's not really. It doesn't put you into the theme really. The design it would probably go to Trajan just because everything functionally does make more sense, and the pieces are more or less. I mean, they're almost the same thing. The Trajan pieces are awesome, but
there's just more component quality in
yeah,
Paladins, honestly.
I
With
will
all the
say, though,
meeples, the card stock, the coins.
yeah, Paladins though is very very icon heavy. Like the board. How many did I count? It was like 280 some icons on the board.
Something like that, yeah.
Like that's how many you have to deal with, which is fine for someone like us, but I mean, like you look at somebody who's like used to playing Uno, looks at that and just, bleh. You know, they're gonna die. So but
if
I would
my
give.
math is right, we're saying Paladins is moving on?
Yep, Paladins moving on. As much as that hurts me.
It hurts me too, don't get me wrong. Trajan's right up there, and I really do enjoy Trajan. I really do love it. In fact, I probably like Trajan more than I like Paladins.
Yes,
But
agreed.
if we go through a breakdown, Paladins just wins it.
Yep. If you disagree in the comments, let us know. But yeah, I mean, that's how it
And
works out.
so, for the games that have been eliminated, our lowest seed, Lanterns, was actually our 6th place finalist on the fan vote at 4.
4 votes, nice.
The 7th seed, Fuse,
Okay.
was on the list at number 7, so it stayed exactly where it was in our rankings with
All right.
3 votes.
3 votes, cool.
Number 6 seed, Fox in the Forest, was at the 8th seed on the fan vote with 1 vote. In Trajan, our number 4 seed, was actually number 5 in our top 8 with 10 votes.
Yeah, cool. All right.
So from what that looks like to me, our bottom half on fan votes were eliminated. Our
Yep.
top half is still in play. So we are agreeing with the people.
All right. That's fair. And our semifinals round will be Clank versus Shem Phillips.
As well as our finals will be Clank versus
maybe.
Shem Phillips versus Shem Phillips.
Yeah, maybe, right? No matter what, Shem Phillips will be
Clank,
moving on.
I don't know if Clank will move on. We'll see.
We'll find out. We will definitely find out. With that being said, we're going to take a very quick break to reset the video, and then we'll move on to the semifinals. Welcome back to our semifinals. Top 8 Renegade Games. We're now down to the top 4. Clank versus Paladins of the West Kingdom.
And Architects of the West Kingdom facing Raiders of the North Sea. Welcome to the Shem semifinals.
Yeah, the Shem semifinals. And yeah, some of our viewers brought up.
Should we call it the Shemi-finals?
The Shemi. Oh wow, I'm the one who makes the puns here, sir. But well done. Oh my goodness. Well, let's go Clanks versus Paladins.
All right, bye Clank.
Yeah. No, let's be realistic here.
Let's do a realistic argument here. But Ease of Play, I think, for sure goes to Clank.
I'm tired of being on the losing end. I will argue for Paladins.
Oh. Sounds good to me.
But no,
Ease
of Play goes to Clank, for sure.
Yeah, it's real simple. It's deck builder. It's
Yep.
really easy to play. However, my big flaw with Clank, and we talked about it, And this is the difference between what you were talking about and my fundamental, or what a fundamental flaw is. This is a game breaking if you don't change this rule. If someone just goes in there and grabs a treasure and runs out, it doesn't even have to delve deep into the game. It just runs out. It's just that's
There's
all
a very
anybody's
good
ever going to do.
chance.
There is a reason why they fixed it in the reprint with Clank in Space.
Right.
Because it technically is a fundamental flaw of the game.
Right. And other than Paladins being an incredibly heavy game, which, I mean, that's not a flaw. That's just, it caters to a certain amount of people. I think it's easier. I would think Immersion, though, would go to Clank as well. Because there's a lot of... I
don't disagree with you on that one as well.
Like, with the Clank tokens, you're waking up the dragon, you're delving in the dungeon, there's a press your luck, you're getting the resources and the equipment and the everything else for the cards, you're building up your series of options, you're getting ready to be a better fighter or a better runner or whatever. I think, really, though, Immersion would hands down go to Clank. Because Paladins, its theme is your Paladins...
defending, it's basically your paladins defending the kingdom or something like that. I remember correctly.
Yeah.
It's your style of game. It's a theme that's just kind of based on mechanisms that's there.
Well, I mean, I appreciate it when the mechanisms do match the theme, and that's why I like Clank about it, is because that really does make a lot of sense how all the mechanisms work for it.
So for me personally, I want to play Clank in Space because I do want to see if that fundamental change makes the game more fun to me.
Yeah.
But I really do want to try Clank Legacy. I've been wanting to play a deck building legacy game that is actually a legacy game.
Right. I couldn't agree more. I want to try that too. So maybe Clank Legacy, which wasn't even mentioned in our comments either.
Yeah, too. Shockingly enough.
I thought it would be, but yeah.
Not after our last topic where we talk about what game needs the legacy treatment and the vitriol we got for people not liking Legacy.
Causing the ruckus that we did, right? That's what we do here at Everyday Board Games.
So game immersion and ease of play, yeah, I'll give to Clank easily, hands down, and I don't disagree with you.
Right.
Those are, but with the replay value,
now there is more expansions for Clank. Than Paladins.
But yeah, the expandability, but the minimum number plays a full experience. You play one game of Clank and you don't want to play it anymore.
You got it. Well, no, you would want to play it again, but you don't experience anything new. Whereas Paladins, just because of how much there is.
Where we go with like length of time and the scaling well on this, Clank is actually one of the longer deck builders I have ever played.
It is.
So
it's almost
right
uncomfortably
up there when it comes
long.
to Paladins.
Yeah.
Huh?
It's almost uncomfortably long.
Yeah. For a deck builder, it kind of overstays its welcome.
Yeah. Whereas
but
Paladins is still
I like more.
Because of how heavy Paladins is, it still overstays its welcome, but you expect it more because of the fact that it's Euro.
Yeah, exactly. And not just that. To me, I could play 2-hour games of Paladin and be like, oh my god, 2 hours just went? Because my brain has been activated the entire time. So I'm sitting there playing and playing and playing. Clank, when you're playing the full contingency and you're watching someone else do the thing that you don't want them to do because they're going to end the game while you're still trying to get your cards together the way you want, it gets frustrating. So an hour and a half or an hour of Clank seems like a lifetime because you're just like, come on, give me the cards that I want.
You're trying to build that engine. But where, like, Paladins, like, your brain is working so hard during those 2 hours, it flies by like crazy, but you'll feel it in the morning. The next morning, you'll wake up, it'll be like a hangover, you're like, oh god, what did you do last night? Like, did you go to Jerry's party too? No, I played Paladins of the West Kingdom. Oh, I'm hurting. I'm hurting. Yeah. Yeah, so it would aim more towards Paladins for that factor.
Yeah, and I honestly I would give art and production to Paladins as well.
Yeah, Clank, it's icon heavy. I hate the board. I really do.
I really do hate that board. It's so dark too.
Yeah.
It's so dark. I understand you're going to the cave, but make it readable.
Yeah, I just don't like the icons and the big circle. I don't know. There's something about it I've never enjoyed that board. But it's okay. It's just not.
So we're in agreement. Paladins is moving on.
Yep, Paladins is moving on.
We're gonna have an all Shem finals.
Yep, no matter what happens. Okay. So I'm gonna explain.
I know which one you're gonna argue.
Yes, I'm gonna argue for Raiders, and that's because the both of them feel like a Shem Phillips game, right?
They do.
Yeah,
they really do.
They both like cement what Shem Phillips does. Because of the one flaw, no matter how minuscule you say I am, if it's between those two games, if I want a good heavy Euro, I can play either one. If I want good worker placement, I can play either one. If I want interaction, they both have interaction. They both do everything really well except for architects. It makes it incredibly uncomfortable for that one player. That's why I think Raiders should move on.
That's your entire argument, just because of that one flaw?
I don't think I mean, because everything else is a wash, right? I mean, the same art, same production, same general iconography. They all make sense. They all work the same.
You know where I would actually give it to you, where Raiders of the North Sea will win?
Ease of play.
Not necessarily.
It's easier
they're
to
both
play.
pretty simple.
Yeah.
No, it's actually easier to play Architects of the West Kingdom, because if you do this, you get that resource. And then, here's the thing, if you put another one in there, it doubles that resource for you. That's it. That's the ease of play. That's how simple the worker placement is in that game. Whereas this one, you're like, okay, what does the white one do for me now? What does the black meeple do for me? What does the gray one do for me? How does it work? Don't get me wrong. I'd give ease of play to Architects of the West Kingdom. The reason why I say you'll get the replay value is because of that replay value. There are 3 expansions off the top of my head for Raiders of the North Sea.
Yep.
There's 1 for Paladins.
Right. So same, even if we called it a wash for everything else, same minimum number of players, same scaling, same everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
North
the
Sea has it.
expansions put Raiders of the North Sea. Now, don't get me wrong. I personally prefer Architects of the West Kingdom, but I will never not say no. And in fact, if you notice up there, I have both Paladins and Architects.
You are behind my screen, so people can't see that. I apologize.
Okay.
I can minimize my
it's
window.
on the Stonemeyer side.
Yeah. Yep. So
I have 2 both Paladins and Architects. I do not have Raiders of the North Sea, but I would never not say no to Raiders of the North Sea, because I love the way the meeples work in that one, where you pick one up, you put one down and pick one up as you're going around. That's such a uniqueness to it.
They both have a uniqueness, with Raiders being like the swapping of the meeples. That makes a lot of sense. But then Architects, you start off with all your workers and they diminish. Like that. Yeah. That they both have something really neat going for them.
But yeah, I'll give you Raiders of the North Sea moving on, just because the expandability.
Okay. Sounds good. That's more than fair. See, I took my bias out of it.
No, you didn't.
Not in the slightest. I'm sorry. So that means
not at all.
not at all. And I'm okay for it, and I will but I agree with you. If I was offered to play Raiders, I would play Raiders. If you offered to play Architects, I'm going to walk away. That was such a bad experience, and it's a shame, because I feel like everything I heard about Architects and all the build up to it, I was really genuinely excited to play it. And that was one of the worst gaming experiences I've had. So much that I have nightmares. I
got a question for you before we end this to go to the finals.
Yeah, sure.
Architects of the West Kingdom or Wasteland Delivery Service?
Architects. Because, and here's why. Here's why Architects would be better. Architects has one flaw. Wasteland is a flaw. There's no redeeming. No, I'm joking.
What's quite funny about this is because the same argument I had with Architects of West Kingdom, you're the only person who has issues with this that I know.
I'm sure if we looked at the comments on Board Game Geek, there's other people who have had the same
there's other people that have issues with it. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about, like, out of our group, out of everybody we've played with, you're the only one that has issues with these 2 games.
With which 2 games? Oh, yeah. Wasteland?
Wasteland and Architects.
But also, in all fairness, Dom, our mutual friend who normally plays these with us, he has also given me the confirmation. He's like, I totally see why you dislike this game. He's like, I do not discredit your dislike for this game. It doesn't affect him. Like, he's not like you and say you're straight up wrong. No, he's like that doesn't bother me, but I understand why you dislike it.
Well, I understand too, but I'm going to tell you you're wrong, just to tell you you're wrong. That's the whole point of this podcast.
That's the whole benefit, right? It's Danny's Wrong the podcast. See, joke's on you. Anything you say bad about a Daniel.
Yeah, but I
comes
said
right
something
back.
bad about a Danny, not a Daniel.
Ah, I see. You've gone by Danny before, right?
Used to when I was younger, yeah.
Yeah. Well.
And then
there
I
you go.
became an adult and, used an adult name.
It just took me longer to do that. Clearly, because I wear tie-dye, it just took me longer to age, I guess. I'm like a fine wine. I ferment years after it's supposed to. Alright, so we're going to take a very quick pause going on to our finals, which will be Paladins of the West Kingdom versus Raiders of the North Sea, Shem Phillips Finals. Oh, Renegade Games, sorry, that's what it is. And welcome back to the top 8 debate Renegade Games, the finals between Paladins of the West Kingdom and Raiders of the North Sea.
And as we mentioned in other debates beforehand, the way we do this is straight up, neither one of us are picking a side. We're just going to go over the 5 categories and their subcategories to see who outright wins this game.
Yes.
Or this debate.
Now, this is definitely tricky because some of these will have a wash automatically. Art and production is the first one, that would.
Yes, because it's Shem Phillip Games. He uses the same artist.
Yes. And then replay value would probably go to Raiders just because of more expansions.
Yeah, it's the only one with expansions right now.
Right. So, I mean, we'll still go over those and make sure that that's a fair comparison. Because I do feel like I would probably play Raiders twice before I felt like I had a full experience. Yeah. Or, yeah, anyway. Whereas Raiders of the North, or Paladins, I feel like I would need it like 3 or 4 games just to make sure I get all of it, just because it's so much heavier. But, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, so for me on this one, the hardest one for me is going to be the ease of play, and the only thing I could think of ease of play would go to Raiders is just because you put one down, you pick one up, whereas you have to be smart of how you're placing, because you only have a set amount for that round.
Yeah.
Now, until you pass, if you pass, everybody else still gets to play in that round until they're done. So
Right.
There's a chance that if you don't play smartly,
Yeah.
just for the worker placement part of it, but that to me means meaningful choice goes to Paladins.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, let's break it down. I feel like initially that's probably where it'll go. Art and production is a wash.
Right, yeah, that's hands down a wash.
Yeah, there's
Because they're pretty much exactly the same. They use the same kind of art. The design works really well.
Right. The only negative I can say that possibly would be for any of that is just how packed the boxes are. And
well, that's because of the box size.
You're
that's
right.
The only issue
Well,
with
that's
it. If
the
they
component,
used a
right?
ticket to ride size box, everything would fit properly.
yeah, finally. But neither of them do it, so both of them are exempt from that. All right. So replay value goes to Raiders. Let's go
Yes.
ease of play first.
Simplicity and the familiarity of the mechanism goes to both of them in a sense because they're both straightforward worker placement games. Just how you do the worker placement in the games are different.
Right.
Whereas in Raiders of the North Sea, again, we've mentioned it, where one goes down, one comes up. You get to take both those actions. Paladins in the West Kingdom, you get your workers in the beginning of the round, and you have to determine how you're going to use them effectively. Do you use them to use your money to buy houses to make things on the other side of the board be cheaper? Or do you start working on that other side of the board? This way you can start getting to the townspeople or defending the area. And so
Right.
it depends on how you want to do it, but you have to do it very smart in how you do it because, as I said earlier, the fact of the matter is, if you run out and you have to pass, you have to wait till everybody else passes. So you have to think about how you're doing things.
I would give simplicity to Raiders as well,
Just because of what I just explained.
But then again, also the AP prone is more so in Paladins, because in Raiders, everything's laid out fairly consistently. You could be like, okay, I need to get this to get this to get this. That's fine. That sets apart my next few turns. But what I like about it is Paladins, everything is available for you at all times, right? Whereas Raiders it's almost like sectionalized, where the bottom section is what you're going to be starting with. So you don't necessarily have to worry about the very top section where you're going to be battling. until you get to that point anyway.
Yeah, you build your engine properly.
Yeah, and then that way you're gonna have less. It'll be less AP prone just because you're really focusing more on one section, and you follow the path naturally to get there, which is good on the design for the board. Whereas Paladins is like, here's your tool, learn to use it. Like, you're gonna go, you can go anywhere you want, figure it out.
It's like giving a hammer to a toddler.
He'll
figure it out.
Yeah, he'll figure it out, but there's gonna be some damage on the way, right?
Exactly.
A couple bruised eyes or something. I don't know. So I would say ease of play goes to Raiders because of both of those, and also Vikings. Like Glenn Andy says, Vikings is more likely to get to a table than Paladins.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all on that one. Meaningful choice, I have to say, goes to Paladins because the way we break it down, impacting other players. Again, saying it in the beginning, you take everything, you draft cards to determine how many meeples you're going to get, as well as what you're playing. If you're taking things that you know they're working for because it's going to work for you just as good, that's going to hurt them. So I say impacting other players works there, as well as the long-term strategy. You have to be smart about your long-term strategy in this one, more so than you have to be about Raiders of the North Sea. Because if someone goes to an area you want to go to, you have like 5 or 6 different areas that almost give the same point total for you. Yeah. So maybe it'll be easier for you to succeed in those areas and get better rewards. So you have especially when it comes to that upper half of the board, you have better chances of pivoting. Whereas in Raiders, if they take something that you really need to get rid of, say the blame that's coming around that you're going to get negative points from, then it hurts a lot more. So long-term strategy, both of them can't have arbitrary choices, but Raiders of the North Sea is more forgiving when it comes to it than, say, Paladins.
I was about to agree with, or say the same thing. I think you could make an arbitrary choices here and there from Raiders, at least less. It's your choices are less meaningful than in Paladins, because Paladins you really do have to have a set plan. You have to enact on it in the right way. You have to hope that everything comes up on your path. And if you do meaningfully strategize that long, you will arc out the win. I agree with you. Meaningful choice would go to Paladins. So now, it's at Immersion.
So here's where we're going to have issues. Theme matching mechanism, to me, that's a wash, because they both work very well for what they're trying to do. You're trying to defend the Institute with the worker placement by spending resources to build walls, trying to recruit people to your side to help defend the wall, I guess you can say. You get the king's favor, so you're trying to get points off the king's favor as well. Whereas the theme matching, the mechanism, you are raiders. You're trying to accrue your supplies to go across the board to raid and give yourself plunder. Okay. So the both themes match.
See, the thing is, Raiders of the North Sea, I actually remember that it's a Viking theme, and because I feel like you're raiding, you're selling your resources, you're getting these new meeples and by taking the characters. 2/3, I don't know if you knew this, but 2/3 of like the women from Iceland are from have Ireland background, and that's because the Vikings just basically stole Irish women and brought them to Iceland. So like it's a weird idea, but that's actually true. So like the fact of you taking people is kind of a Viking thing. Whereas Paladins, I legitimately forgot what the theme was, because at no point did I feel like I was actually doing what I felt Raiders of the North Sea does. I mean, they're both very abstracted.
Honestly, to be truthfully honest, the Viking theme is kind of painted on Raiders of the North Sea, too, because
it is.
Champions of Midgard is more of a thematic Viking game than Raiders of the North Sea.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But my thing is, with this one, I still think Paladins is the theme does match. You are Paladins defending the kingdom from the onslaught of people coming in. You have the warriors coming in, you're building up your walls, you're doing all these different things, so...
Yeah, okay. I mean,
that's why to me it's a wash, because both of them match their theme that are just kind of there.
It's just it's more Raiders has more of a punch yourself in the face theme. Like it's really obvious what the theme is going for. For Paladins, it's not a strong theme, but it does match the theme.
Here's my argument to that, because Paladins, you could theme it any other way you want to, and it still works. Same could be said for Vikings. You take the Vikings out of it and put the Mongols in, it's the same exact game. You just you make a trail with horses rather than a sea.
Yeah, I don't disagree
And
with
in
you,
fact,
but that's
they
still...
did. That's what Raiders of the Scythia is. They rethemed
That's true.
for the Scythians.
But that's still like a group of warriors, whereas like paladins, if you're like, oh, you're space aliens defending your planet, it would still technically
It still
work.
works.
But
the thing is, your argument is exactly what I just said. You're Raiders of Scythia raiding other countries.
Okay.
Vikings raiding other countries. You put Mongols on there, it would still work.
you would have to have raiders though, whereas paladins, like you could have non, like you could be like tree spirits, growing a forest, like, and it would still, like it. I'm just saying it's a looser connection, but I will call it a wash. I will agree with you. Let's talk player interaction, because they're both very strong. They're both very, very strong as far as theme.
Here's the thing where I would give it, and unfortunately this is gonna hurt. I'd give it to Raiders of the North Sea.
Yeah.
Because most of the time during Paladins you're like this.
Yeah, you're on your own board, right? Yep,
the only time you really get into it is when they have those worker placement spots that open up on the board, as well as you're trying to take certain aspects of cards, because there's certain cards that you want to get, either to get rid of to get the immediate resources, or something that will give you long-term resources. So it just depends, and that's why I think game immersion will take Raiders over, and that's because the memorable moments in that too. When you take that final thing, that final monastery, or that final, the forts up at the top.
Yep.
You feel accomplished. You feel like, all right, I just triggered the end game. I know I have the points to win this.
Right.
As much as I want Paladins to move on, because it is my favorite game out of all the three that we've argued today, I think Raiders of the North Sea, just by our criteria, is the better game on that.
Yeah, I prefer Paladins a little bit more than Raiders of the North Sea. I completely agree with you, but I would give it to Raiders of the North Sea because I feel that Shem Phillips said, I wanted to make a Viking worker placement game, and he made Raiders of the North Sea, where I feel he made a worker placement game with cool mechanisms and then added Paladins to it.
But the thing is, he didn't make a Viking game, but then he rethemed it as the Raiders of Scythia, so I'm like, it's the same game!
Yeah. No, You're right. I'm telling you. That just seems how the design
the third
worked.
edition, where it's going to be the Raiders of the Mongols or something like that. The Mongol invasion.
Yeah, Mongols of the North Sea. All right.
Or the Japanese invasion of China and stuff like that. So
yeah, okay. But we agree then. And how about our viewers? Did they agree with us?
So, going down our list here, Architects of the West Kingdom, because I forgot to tell us what the games that went out in the last round. Architects of the West Kingdom was our third nominee at 16 votes. Clank was not only the number one seed on BGG and our number one seed here, it was also the number one in fan votes at 28. So do you want to guess which one actually won the fan vote?
I'm guessing Raiders.
Raiders of the North Sea won with 25. It was actually our number two vote getter, only losing to Clank by 3. And I think that's more along the lines because of the deck building aspect compared to the worker placement aspect of it. I think deck building is just a little bit more popular than worker placement.
Right. As
well as some people penalizing themselves because they said Shem Phillips is the guy, Garfield Games is the ones that make the game. Renegade distributes them.
Right. And so we've had this counter argument before too, plenty of times, where Clank really, if it didn't have that one problem, it probably would have gone on. And it would have. It's not that bad of a problem. Nothing that couldn't have been fixed. But had it been Clank in space, I don't know that it would have been beaten by Paladins. I think that means that you and I really need to go out of our way and make sure that we try Clank in Space to start doing it justice from here on out, because then that will be replacing Clank, I believe, in most of our rankings.
Unless we play Clank Legacy.
That's true. Is that ranked higher?
I'm okay with too, because I really do like it.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't disagree with anything that happened here, and I forgot to mention it. Paladins was our number 4 game with 12 votes.
Okay.
So it was actually quite up there. It actually, if we went to tiebreaker against it and Trajan would have lost.
Yeah. Which hurts me, but I get it. I get it too. And I wonder how much of this is just a factor of the North Sea or West Kingdom hype train. You know what I mean? I wonder how many people would have actually given Paladins a chance, or Architects for that case, if they didn't already like Raiders. I feel like that's the reason why so many of these are so up there, and now will probably continue. Not to say that they didn't earn it, because they totally did, but I mean, like,
well,
I don't feel
there's an argument to what you're saying, and I agree with you. But I mean, you look at Scythia, the Raiders of Scythia. It's not as popular or up there than say the West Kingdom games or the Raiders of North Sea. And I think part of it too is it's because of the theme that is put on it. Not a lot of people know who Scythia was, or the Scythians for that matter.
Yeah.
So I understand where he's going with. They're pretty cool people. They also had hawks. So.
They had
they were
hawks,
falconers.
So they were falconers.
They were falconers. Yeah,
That's
I don't know if they have it in the game, but the Scythians were big on when they hunted with bows, and they also hunted with falcons.
That's cool. That's the more you know. That's maybe I'll like it more. I'm just looking forward to when people start talking more about Paladins and Raiders of the North Sea and just stop talking about Architects. My life will be that much happier. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway.
Well, seeming how Architects was our third vote getter, again, you're in the minority here.
I know. I'm gonna check online later. Not to prove my point or anything. I'm just curious if really I am the outlier that had a problem with that. I'll eat my own words if that's the case. If I look through all the comments and nobody else brings up that problem, then maybe it's just some weird fluke that happened. And if that's the case, then I promise I will give Architects another chance. One other chance. If that's the case. If not, and people have echoed my concerns, then I stand by it. Whole truth. Anyway, this has been a fun episode. The first half of it was amazing. Second half didn't matter. No, I was kidding. But the first half it's always fun to argue such very different games, and that goes to say what Renegade Games does and how they approach publishing. And they're doing RPGs now, and they're doing miniatures games practically. You know, it's interesting to see how they approach publishing. And so,
no, I don't disagree. I'm a fan of what they're doing. I like what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So let's just see if they keep going on with it.
Yeah, there's no one way to define Renegade Games. So thank you for producing the games, and we want to thank our audience. Thank you for watching. If you would like to contact us, you can email us directly at everydayboardgames@gmail.com. Right?
everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com. I swear to God, I got to get you the script.
we got to get a script. You
can also find us on Twitter at EBG Podcast. Also, there's a pinned tweet that has a link to all our video or audio podcast versions of this.
And if you'd like to watch us do this episode live or future episodes, join us at twitch.tv/everydayboardgames.
As well as the video uploads on YouTube at Everyday Board Games 2020 and on Podbean for the audio versions at Everyday Board Games Podcast.
And if you want to stick around, if you're watching this live, like Glenn Andy is, thank you for joining us and contributing to our conversation. Also, one of the many perks of watching us live is you get to help us decide what we'll be voting on next week. So, with that being said, we want to thank everybody for tuning in. I've been Daniel.
And I've been Daniel.
And this has been Everyday Board Games.
Have a good one.